In this video, I'll be showing you how to play familiars and foes, and then I'll go through a short playthrough example. Let's start with a step-by-step walkthrough of a familiar character mat. We have Jinxie out here as an example, and she's paired with Spike, her toad. So Jinxie is the fire familiar. And if you look down here, you can see that she is strong against air. So when we start fighting foes, she's going to have an advantage when she's fighting against an air-aligned foe. Next to her illustration, we have her health point meter. So she starts at 13 health points, and it's good to note that the familiars are asymmetrical, meaning items on their cards are going to be different from one another. And one of those things is their health points. Some are going to have more and some are going to have less. Similar with the magic points. Some will have more magic, some will have less magic. As Jinxie starts taking hits from the foes, we'll be moving the health point marker down to record that. She might also lose a little bit of health if she has some backfires when she's trying to cast spells. The magic points are used as currency to cast spells. So whenever we want to cast a spell, there will be a cost associated with it. For example, if a spell costs 1 magic point, we'll move that down 1. You might also lose magic points if a foe attacks you and it calls for you to lose some magic points. The middle section of the character mat shows you what we need to do on your turn. There are 3 options of what you can do, but you're only going to complete 1 action. So the first option is you can do a physical attack. The chart here illustrates how that works. So what you'll do is you'll declare which foe you want to fight against. You'll say you want to do a physical attack, and then you'll roll the dice. So let's say you roll a 9, for example. We'll go ahead and look at this row here, the 7 through 16, and that means you're going to do 2 health point damage against the foes. And then that would complete your turn. The next option you have is you can use an artifact. You're going to be equipped with an artifact at the beginning of the game. It's a one-time use item and then it'll be discarded. But there are ways to get more artifacts throughout the game. You can hold as many artifacts as you want. There's no limit on that. So to activate it, you'll just kind of read through, see how it works. You'll declare that you want to use it, and then go ahead and enact the artifact. It's good to note that some artifacts take effect on the foe's turns, so you might just kind of want to leave it out on the game board until it's taken effect as a reminder. The third option that you can use on your turn is cast a spell. And as magical familiars, this is mostly what we're going to be doing throughout the game. We have a beginner spell scroll here to start with. The top half are attack spells, and the bottom half are restorative spells. So if we look a little closer at the attack spells, we start with our simple spell, which is called Summon the Toad. For that one, it costs 1 magic point to cast, so we would take our magic point meter down 1. You have to roll a 3 or better, so when you roll the dice, it has to be 3 or more. And then it does 1 damage, so whichever foe we've declared that we want to attack would lose 1 health point. If we look at the strong spell, this one is called Flame of Fury. It costs 3 magic points to cast. 1, 2, 3. We'd have to roll a 9 or better for it to be successful, and it would deliver 4 health point damage against the foe. So it does 4 times the damage. But if you're unable to roll a 9 or better, there's a consequence. You would do no damage against the foe, and you would also lose a health point because it has backfired. The third spell here is our elemental spell. And this comes in play when we're fighting the element that we're strong against. So Jinxie is strong against air, so this spell is only unlocked when we are fighting air foes. To cast it, it costs 2 magic points. You would have to roll a 5 or better, and then it does 4 damage against the foe. So it does just as much damage as the strong spell, but it costs less, there's better odds, and there's no chance of a backfire. If you have the opportunity to use your elemental spell on your turn, definitely use that one. Now let's look at these restorative spells down here. The first one is called Healing Paw, and the way this works is you're basically exchanging magic points for health points. So on your turn, you could say drop your magic points 3, and it's going to give you 3 health points. Now you can use that spell on yourself, or you could use it on one other familiar. The Magic Eye spell is similar but goes in the other direction. So if you wanted to, you could use 2 health points, but it's a 2-for-1 deal here. So you're going to gain 4 magic points. So for every 1 health point, you'll gain 2 magic points. And again, you can use this spell either on yourself or one other familiar. Down here, we have the spot for the Coven card. So when your witch or wizard is rescued, it'll be tucked under here and a helper spell will be showing. So that will just be in addition to your beginner spell scroll, and you can use that helper spell like you would any of your other spells. Over here we have our training scroll. So the training scroll is a list of 6 tasks that we need to complete before we can unlock our advanced spell scroll. The first 3 items need to be completed successfully. So we have our simple spell, a physical attack, and either the strong or elemental spell. So we need to inflict damage upon the foes before we can take one of the markers and check the box off. The bottom 3 items just need to be completed. So they do not need to inflict damage, and this includes doing a restorative spell, using your special ability, which we'll get to in a moment, or using an artifact. So artifacts don't necessarily deal damage. So if we use one, for example, we would check off here. And it is possible to check off more than 1 box on your turn, depending on how you play it. Now, once all these boxes have been checked off, we would go ahead and discard the training scroll from the game, and now we have our advanced spell scroll. Similar to the beginner spell scroll, it's divided up into attack spells and a restorative spell. The attack spells are all new, they're very particular to which familiar you are, and they're very strong. The restorative spell you gain is Revive. So if your familiar would happen to drop to 0 health points, that means your familiar has fallen. At that point, you would take their meeple on the turn tracker and turn it over so you see the ghost side, and their turn would be skipped until they're brought back into the game. And this is how you can do it. Now there's a couple conditions. The first is that every other familiar needs to have their advanced spell scroll unlocked so they have the restorative spell Revive available to them. Next, every familiar has to pay 2 magic points, and then everybody flips the coin. And depending on how the coin flip works out, that shows you whether the familiar comes back partially, or 100% strong. That completes the area of what you do on your turn, and then we'll go ahead and look at the optional actions here. So these are moves you can make on your turn, someone else's turn, or even the foe's turn. Let's take a look at them. The first optional action is the Ballyhoo. So this is a team attack, and we typically think of this as like a chain building mechanic. And what we mean by this is every familiar is working to build a link in this chain while they're fighting the foes. It starts by either doing a successful physical attack or casting a successful beginner attack spell. It does not work with the advanced spells. Those are too strong for the Ballyhoo. So once one of the spells or the physical attacks are successful, that's the first link in the chain. Then any other familiar can say they want to contribute to the Ballyhoo. To do that, they go ahead and they spend 1 magic point, and then they flip the coin. If the coin is eyes open, it does an additional 2 damage to the foes. That builds another link in that chain, and then another familiar can go ahead and do a Ballyhoo. Again, they spend a magic point, they flip the coin, and if it's eyes open, it's an additional 2 damage. Once all the familiars have built 1 link in that chain, the Ballyhoo is over. Now, if along the way someone flips an eye closed, the ballyhoo is also over at that point, and whoever flipped that eye closed is going to lose 1 health point as a backfire. The next optional action is the special ability. Each familiar has its own particular special ability. You start off with 3 of these gems at the beginning of the game, and there's really not much opportunity to get more of them, so you have to really treat these as precious. When you want to use your special ability, you just declare that you're going to use it. You go ahead and cash in 1 of your gems and remove it from the game, and then you go ahead and proceed to use it as stated on your character mat. And again, that can be used at any point during the game. It is an interrupt action. It does not have to be done on your turn. Over here, we have the good luck token. You are equipped with 1 of these at the beginning of the game. There is opportunities to gain more of these throughout the game, and you can have as many as there is available to use in the game. So it's essentially a 2-headed coin, so the eye is open on both sides. If someone is flipping the coin and they flip an eye closed and you want to change it to eye open, you just go ahead and you spend this. It's removed from the game, and then you flip the coin over to eye open, or you could even change it from an eye open to an eye closed if that works out better for you. You can do this on your own flip, or you can do it for another player who's flipping the coin. Over here we have the foe rewards. So once we start fighting the foes, we're going to be getting rewards as they're defeated. Those cards can be tucked underneath here, so just the reward is showing. And again, that reward is a one-time interrupt. It can be used on your turn, someone else's turn, or on the foe's turn, whatever is appropriate. Let's look at the foes in a little bit more detail. Right now we're focused in on the foe number 1 area of the board. If there are additional foes that you're going to be fighting, they'll go into the foe number 2 or the foe number 3 area. And those numbers, they designate the order in which they are rolled for when it comes to the foe's turns. We're going to look at a level 2 foe, for example, here. So there's level 1, level 2, and level 3 foes, with level 3 being the most difficult. So here we have Nephilim. Now Nephilim is aligned with the ether element, and that's written right below her name, or you can tell by the general purple color scheme of the foe. She's a level 2 like we saw on the back of the card, and then down here is where we figure out how many health points she gets. And that's based on how many familiars are playing the game. For our example, we're going to have 3 familiars, which means that she's going to have 17 health points. Now, she can never go higher than 17 health points. She has some healing abilities, but she's going to top out here if she uses those. She also has a special ability. Some foes have these and some foes don't, so make sure to make note of it if one does. Her special ability is called Mirror Mantle, and it states, familiars who successfully cast attack spells on this foe lose 1 health point, and this does not apply to Ballyhoo, so we need to keep that in mind when attacking Nephilim. Below that, we have her attack chart. So when it comes to her turn, we'll designate someone to go ahead and roll for Nephilim. So let's say, for example, that we rolled an 11. That means we need to look at the 9 through 12 area of the chart. And we see that she'll deal 2 health point damage to each familiar, and she'll also deal 3 magic point damage to each familiar. Once that's scored, and then we'll move on from her and go to the next foe if there's another, or we'll go back to the first player. Now she also has a reward here, and it says all familiars gain 5 magic points. So in order to get that reward, it's whatever familiar deals the final blow, which means whoever takes her down to 0 health points will get that reward. And then that can be tucked under their character mat and then used 1 time during the rest of the game as an interrupt. And once it's used, it's discarded. Now let's take a closer look at the game board. It's divided up into 4 waves of battle, and the board is designed to help lead you through the game. So if we start here with wave 1, we would reveal the Witch or Wizard card, and that would pair with whatever familiar it belongs to, and then we would reveal the foe card. Once we're done fighting the foe, then the wave is completed and we're able to move on. The next point on our path says refill magic points. So at this point, all the familiars are going to refill all of their magic points. And that spot is going to happen between each and every wave of battle. One thing to note is that health points do not get refilled in between, so you have to be careful about managing those on your own. After we refill the magic points, we'll move on to wave 2, reveal that Witch or Wizard and that foe, and then we'll continue through the game similarly until we've either defeated all the foes or the familiars have fallen. Now let's talk a little bit more about the turn tracker. We have the Toad turn marker here, which indicates who the active player is. In this case, we have Figich, who's in the first player spot. Now once Figich has completed one of his 3 actions, and the other 2 familiars have completed any of their optional actions, then the Toad turn marker is going to go to the next player's turn. Once Jinxie's done with her turn, it's going to go on to Mimsy, and once Mimsy's done with her turn, it'll go on to the foes. For the foes, we'll designate one of the players to roll the dice for them to go ahead and complete their action. Once that is done, the Toad turn marker would go back to the first player. Now from the first player to the foe's turn, that is considered 1 round of play, and we just keep going around and around. Now let's look at a specific example here. Let's say we were on Jinxie's turn, and Jinxie just delivered the final blow to the foe that was in wave 1, and we're about to move on. We would refill our magic points, we would reveal the next Witch or Wizard, we would reveal the new foes, and then the Toad turn marker would just continue going in order. So we would start wave 2 with Mimsy's turn. It does not go back to the first player, it just continues moving. Now, this is something to watch out for, because if we finished wave 1 on Mimsy's turn, the Toad turn marker would go to the foe's turn, and the new foes would be attacking us immediately. So the turn tracker is really good because it helps us maintain who the active player is, even though we might be doing optional actions on other people's turns. Alright, we've completed going through all the rules, so now we're going to go through a couple rounds of play to see how it all works. First thing we need to do is move our Toad turn marker back over to the first player spot, and then we'll reveal the Witch or Wizard we're saving. We have Cyrena, the Water Witch. So we've rescued Cyrena. She's going to go over to Mimsy and add a helper spell to her spell scroll. So this helper spell is called Siren Spirit. In order to use it, you have to pay 3 magic, you have to roll a 5 or better, and then it'll give all familiars 3 health points. So we'll tuck that in right over here. And that can be used on Mimsy's turn like any other spell. Now, if Mimsy wasn't in play, then Cyrena would just kind of go off to the side, and the other familiars would have an opportunity to use her 1 time. So 1 familiar on their turn could use her 1 time, and then the card is discarded from the game. Alright, let's see who we're going to be fighting. Oh, we have Pyromander. He is a level 3 fire foe. He's pretty tough. So let's take a look at his card here. He, for 3 familiars, will start off with 20 health points. So we'll put the marker here on the 20. And remember, it can never go higher than that. He has no special attacks or abilities, but we do have his attack chart here. And then he has the reward. So whoever will deal the finishing blow against Pyromander would receive the reward, and then they could use that 1 time anytime they'd like through the rest of the game as an interrupt. And this is a particularly good reward. It says deal 4 damage to all foes. Alright. So let's kick things off with Figich. He's the first player, and I think we're going to go ahead and start off with a physical attack. So that's the first option here. We have the chart reading it off, so I need to roll a 7 or better to hit Pyromander. I got a 10. All right, that does 2 damage, so we take 2 health points off of Pyromander. And because it was successful, that means the team attack, the Ballyhoo, is open. and we're definitely going to give that a try. So let's start off with Jinxie. So the ballyhoo is described over here. It costs 1 magic point, and then we need to get the coin and go ahead and flip it. Eyes open, so that means we're going to take an additional 2 damage off of Pyromander. It was because it's successful, that means another familiar can give it a try, and Mimsy definitely wants to jump in on this. We'll pay 1 magic point, and we'll flip the coin again. Oh, eyes close. But you know what? We have these good luck tokens here. And Mimsy's going to go ahead and spend the good luck token. It's going to be removed from the game. And that's just going to go ahead and turn that back to eye open and take 2 more damage off of Pyromander. Now, anybody could have cashed in their good luck token for that to be turned over. It does not have to be the player who flipped the coin. So, we've completed Figget's turn, and he successfully completed his physical attack, so we're going to mark that off of the training scroll here. And then the Toad turn marker is going to go into Jinxie. Jinxie is going to go ahead and do the Summon the Toad spell. So to cast the spell, she's going to use 1 magic point. We'll move that down 1, and then we roll the dice. We need a 3 or better. 7. Good enough. That's going to do 1 damage. And now the ballyhoo's back open. So Figget hasn't given it a try yet. He wants to get in on this. So we'll put the magic point marker down 1, flip the coin, and ooh, starts off with an eye closed. We're not going to use a good luck token this time, so Figget is going to take 1 health point damage because it backfired on him. Now, since it's eye closed, that means the ballyhoo is over. No one else can give it a try. So Jinxie's turn is done. We're going to go ahead and mark off that the Summon the Toad spell was completed on the training scroll. And then we're going to move on to Mimsy's turn. Now, Mimsy is strong against fire. She has the elemental spell that is now unlocked. So we're going to go ahead and use that. But before she does, Jinxie's going to jump in here and use her Tally-Ho special ability. What that's going to do is she's going to cash in her special ability gem, and Mimsy's spell is going to be doubled up for damage. So Mimsy is going to pay 2 magic, and she's going to attempt her elemental spell, the Drizzle Dance. And she needs to roll a 5 or better. 10! So the Drizzle Dance does 4 damage. 2, 3, 4, but because Jinxie doubled her up, it's going to deal an additional 4 damage. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, we have the ballyhoo open. So Jinxie's going to go ahead and spend a magic point and flip the coin. Oh, eyes closed. Oh, on a bad streak here. So Jinxie is backfired on the ballyhoo and is going to lose 1 health point. And then the ballyhoo is over, and we're going to go on to the foe's turn, and we're also going to mark off that Mimsy has completed her elemental spell there. So at this point, the 3 familiars have gone, and now it's the foe's turn. And when Pyromander attacks, he's going to be attacking everybody at once. So we'll go ahead and roll for Pyromander. He rolled a 13. Let's see. That's going to do 4 health point damage and 3 magic point damage to every familiar. Ooh, he hit him pretty good. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. All right. Back to Figget. All right. Figget really doesn't want to get hit that hard again, so he's looking at his artifact here, which is called Spicy Boys. So for Spicy Boys, we'll go ahead and flip the coin to start. And it's eyes open. So with eyes open, that means all the damage from each foe attack is reflected onto itself this round. So what this is effectively going to do is it's going to stop any damage from the foes coming and hitting the familiars, and he's just going to be hitting himself instead. And so that takes care of Figget's turn. There's no Ballyhoo or anything since he hasn't used an attack, and just the artifact card is laid down. So we'll go on to Jinxie. All right. Jinxie sees that, Mimsy might need some magic. Her magic point meter is getting a little bit low. So what Jinxie is going to do is she's going to do the Magic Eye Restorative spell. And the way this one works is she's going to trade in some of her health points to give Mimsy some magic points. She could do this for herself as well. She can do it for any of the familiars, but she's choosing to help out Mimsy here. So for every health point traded in, Mimsy is going to get 2 magic points. So Jinxie is going to take her health point meter down 2, and then Mimsy is going to go ahead and raise hers 4. So she's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go ahead and we mark off that a restorative spell was used. Oh, and we forgot on Figgetch that an artifact was used. So both Figgetch and Jinxie now have 2 of their tasks marked off of their training scroll. So that completes Jinxie's turn, and now we're on to Mimsy. Mimsy, seeing that everybody got knocked down a little bit from Pyromander's last hit, so she's going to go ahead and use her helper spell. So for that one, it's going to cost 3 magic. And then we roll the dice. We need a 5 or better. Oh, we got a 4. It didn't work out. That's too bad. It would have given 3 hearts to all the familiars. But we'll just go ahead and move on. So that completes Mimsy's turn. And now we're going to go back to Pyromander. Now remember, we have this artifact here, so Pyromander's just going to be beating up himself on this one. So let's go ahead and roll the dice. And he rolled a 5. So that would normally do 3 health point damage to all the familiars, but instead it's going to do 3 health point damage back to Pyromander. It would have normally done 2 magic point damage as well, but this card cancels any other attacks going on. So this artifact has been used up, and it's now going to be discarded from the game. All right, he's down to just 2 health points. Let's see if we can finish him off. We'll bring all the way back to Figgetch here to start off the round. And let's see, what should we do? Maybe we should try a strong spell. So we'll try Figgetch Quagswag. That can do a possible 4 damage, and that would knock him out. So it costs 3 magic. We'll move the meter down 3 here. And now we need to roll a 9 or better. 3. Oh no, it backfired. Figgetch is going to drop down 1 magic point. And again, we can't Ballyhoo because the spell was unsuccessful. So let's see, we're going to go on to Jinxie here. I think Jinxie is going to try a physical attack because if I roll a 7 or better, that'll do the 2 health point damage that we need. So let's move the toe turn tracker to Jinxie. Let's roll the dice. Come on. 5. Oh no. We got 1 more backfire. And we're over back to Mimsy. Come on, Mimsy. Let's get him. I think Mimsy's going to go back to her Drizzle Dance, her elemental spell. So that's going to take 2 magic points to execute. We're going to roll the dice. And she got a 20. Critical hit. That's going to knock him out for sure. And that means that Mimsy is going to go ahead and gain the reward, and she can use that at any point through the rest of the game. And those can be tucked in right over here as a reminder of what the rewards are. So at this point, we would go ahead and refill all the magic points. So Mimsy goes to the top. Jinxie goes to the top. Oh, and I just remembered we used our special ability, so we got to mark that off on the training scroll as well. And then Figgetch magic goes all the way to the top. So that completes wave 1. We've refilled our magic points, and the next thing we would do is go ahead and reveal the Witcher Wizard. We have Ember. He is the fire mage, so he's going to go with Jinxie right there to add a helper spell. And then we have 2 more foes. We have Fugnus and we have Gruffle Badger here. So we've completed 1 wave of play. We're going to go ahead and stop here, but that should give you a good idea for how the game flow works. And we hope this has been helpful. If you have any more questions, definitely refer to the manual. It goes into great detail on all the rules and all the different conditions of the game. I hope you've enjoyed these tutorials and have a magical game night with familiars and foes.